Hi and welcome to Food in a Flash. I'm Sharon Glass. In this series I'm going to share my passion of cooking with you and show you how to make quick and easy recipes in as little time as possible. If you're a working mom, let's cook up something in 30 minutes. And if you're on a budget, let's see how economical we can be with your money. As a self-taught cook and cooking teacher of 27 years, I have a passion for what I do. And as a mother, I know how rewarding it is to see my family happily tucking into a wonderful meal that I have prepared. I also know what it's like to be a busy mom and still have to think about getting dinner on the table. It's not always easy, but it doesn't have to be complicated. That's why I started teaching and writing cookbooks to show people just how wonderful it can be to cook and enjoy and still have time and energy to do the important things in life. Over the next few weeks, I hope I can get you to become confident in the kitchen, have fun, and above all, create some beautiful, simple meals that you and your family will absolutely love. My children always want to know what's for supper, so today I have the perfect meal for you for every day. We're doing grilled marinated lamb chops with some smashed potatoes, accompanied by a ribbon salad, and we're finishing off with some poached peaches. Meat is always better when cooked at room temperature, so I want to marinate these, set them aside for about 15 minutes, and then we're going to grill them. We have some lemon juice, white wine vinegar, some Dijon mustard, a little bit of mint jelly, which gives it a really nice flavor. Mint and lamb go great together. And we've got lots of fresh herbs. I have some rosemary, some oregano, and some fresh Italian parsley. All of these will be blended in the blender and then put into a bag to marinate the chops. And this is the most effective way of marinating because you can actually rub that mixture into the chops and get the flavor in. I'm using rib chops. I like them because they're less fatty, and also the rib chop is actually the softest part of the meat. When you buy like a chump chop, which has a lot of meat on the side, that is quite chewy. This is actually the most tender part. So it might be a little bit more expensive, but sometimes you need to spend that little bit more to get the flavor and the texture that you want. What we want to do is use some olive oil as the base. And the reason that we want the olive oil is that we need to blend those herbs. But I must be careful about not using too much. So I'm cooking. I want a nice fruity extra virgin olive oil, and I don't want too much of it. So I'm going to put about 3 tablespoons in this mixture. My white wine vinegar, lemon juice, little bit of Dijon mustard. You don't want to use a Coleman's hot English mustard because it's a bit too strong. So about a tablespoon. And you know what? I never really measure. We're cooking. Use flavor for yourselves. If a recipe says exactly 1 tablespoon, it doesn't matter. You can add a little bit more or a little bit less. It's only in baking that you really need to be precise. I've got some mint jelly here. So let's put about 2 tablespoons of mint jelly. Gives us a little bit of sweetness, and I can always add more if I need some. Okay, then I've got a seasoning salt, any seasoning salt, whatever you have, and about a tablespoon of that as well. This is a natural seasoning salt. I'm very into not using MSG and products that have MSG. We're using some fresh rosemary, so I want to just take it off the stem, and you always want to pull against the grain so that you pull off the stem easily. The top part is quite soft. Let's add some oregano. These are herbs that work well with lamb. Rosemary, oregano, mint. And what I often do with my herbs, which I'll show you now, is I wash them, dry them, and roll them in some paper towel so that it takes the excess water off, because a lot of the time that water is going to turn those herbs bad. So if you just wash them, spin them in a lettuce spinner, roll them gently into a roll like that, and pop that into a Ziploc bag, your herbs will stay fresh in the fridge for up to a week, maybe even longer, and they work and keep beautifully. I cook with coarse salt, so I like a natural salt. I don't like using iodized salt. And a little bit of black pepper. this gadget's fantastic. It just zhuzhes it. So you can see I actually have enough liquid. I just want to coat the chops. I want to give them flavor. I need to let them marinate. And even if it's 10 minutes, the longer the better, but even if it's 10 minutes, that's fantastic. So if this were too thick and I hadn't added enough liquid, what I would do then is just add a little bit of water to thin it out. But as you can see, there's quite a lot of liquid here. And it's the perfect quantity. I have 6 lamb chops here, so I could even have added 8. You want to allow what, 2 per person, maybe a few extra for lunch the next day. You can see that it really does coat them well. And we want to leave them out, so make them flat so that they actually absorb the flavor of the herbs and the marinade, and we'll just set that aside until we're ready to make the next dish. I have some peaches here, yellow clings, but this can be made with any other fruit. You could use apples, you could use pears, whatever's in season. Just remember that they need to be firm fruits when you're poaching, otherwise they'll just collapse. And we're just using a fresh juice. So if it's peaches, we're using peach juice. If you're doing plums, I would do an apple juice, or even a grape juice would work really, really well. So let's just peel these. It also brings the color out of the fruit. If I was doing plums, for example, I would actually want to score them. So the best thing to do is just cut a little slash at the top, like that, of the fruit. Pop them into boiling water for a second, and then they'll peel off really easily. Peaches don't peel so well. And the cooking time really will be determined by the size of the fruit. So let's pop them into the pot. We want to do them on a low heat. We don't want them to boil too much, and I must put the lid on. So the juice needs to cover the fruit. They need to be submerged at least half, otherwise the bottom half is going to cook and the top is not. So what I like to do is always check them with a fork, pierce them, see how firm they are, and turn them at least once, maybe even twice while they're cooking. So my peaches are poaching. We'll leave them for about 15 to 20 minutes. When we come back, we're going to make some smashed potatoes and grill the marinated chops. Don't go away, we'll be right back. Welcome back to Food in a Flash. Today we're making a weeknight meal. We've already poached some peaches and we're about to grill some lamb chops. And to go with that, I thought we'd make some nice smashed potatoes. They're quick and easy. So what I've got are some baby potatoes. They work really well with this recipe, but you could also use whole big potatoes. They work just as effectively. What I always do is pre-boil them a little bit, because that way they'll cook faster in the oven. I preheated my oven to about 200 degrees. We want a nice hot oven, because if it's too low, I'm not going to get the color I need, and I want them to be really, really crispy. So I've got this liner which is non-stick, which allows me to use a little bit less oil as well. And what I'm going to do is just pop these potatoes onto the baking tray and take my hand and gently just smash them like that. It's as simple as that. So let's drizzle them with a little bit of olive oil. And just be careful that you don't overdo it. Vegetables become oily when they're in the oven, so they're much better when they just have a little bit of oil just to coat them. A little bit of coarse salt. And then I'm just going to take my rosemary and just sprinkle it on top, just like that. You could chop them if you want to, but sometimes when you chop the herbs, they burn because they're a little bit too fine. They literally will take about an hour. We'll turn them over. That's all there is to it. So we've got our chops that have been marinated already, and because we had mint in that marinade, or a mint jelly, there's sugar in it. We need to be careful, because when we grill on a grilling pan, that sugar is going to start burning, which is exactly why I don't want that temperature too high. So I'm just going to preheat my pan, leave it for a little bit, and get those chops ready to go. Another great alternative, instead of using lamb chops, you could use a whole deboned lamb roll or a lamb leg, and either do it flat or rolled up. Let me show you what I mean. So here I have a deboned leg of lamb. If we do it open and flat, like that. It's going to cook quite quickly, so this will probably take about 30 minutes in total. Just going to put some gloves on. So what you want to do is roll it up from the short side to the thick side like that, tucking in these little, and I have these elastic silicone bands that can actually go into the oven, which will actually hold it together while it's roasting. This is instead of using string. It's quite a nice modern invention, and it's available at quite a few specialty stores. So you would need to go to a cooking store to find them, but they don't burn in the oven, which is fantastic, and they're really easy to remove. So I'm not stuffing my lamb or anything, I'm just holding it together. So I can either roast it like this or completely open. But like this, you would need about 50 minutes in the oven, whereas when it's flat, about 30 would work perfectly. So let's put the chops on. The trick, can you hear that? That's sealing the juices in the flavor, and that's keeping that meat beautifully juicy inside. So you want to keep it on that side for about 2 minutes before you turn it. I like to use the middle part because I know that my flame is right under the center. And then what I do when I've turned it is just wash them. We need those stunning lines that give it color. It's very important when you're cooking not to use this on cooked meat. So in other words, I would have to cook this. Because it's had raw meat in it, I would have to cook this right at the end to get some gravy or flavor going so that my meat and my marinade work well together. And you can see they've got just the beginnings of those lines. So what we want to do is just leave them. Don't turn. You know, the problem that we have is that we want to turn all the time. And that way you're losing heat. Keep the heat. Keep them on. That's how you sear your meat. So my peaches, I think, are almost done. They look beautiful. I'm just going to test them with a fork and see if they are done. The trick is that they must still be firm, but I must be able to put my fork through, and they feel absolutely perfect. That sauce is cooked down, it's thickened a little bit, it's got no more added sugar. We're ready to go. Now I can turn these chops. You see, the beauty about a grilling pan with that non-stick is that you never have to add extra oil. Remember, we had oil in the marinade, plus your chops are fatty. There's fat on them. We don't need extra fat. We want to try and cook as leanly as possible. And they're looking rather gorgeous, but they need another 5 minutes. Wow, these potatoes look awesome. They're crispy and golden and brown. I could dig into them right now. These chops look perfect. They've been on the grill for about 10-15 minutes. They're lovely, golden. Let's plate them up and get ready to finish off this dish. You can see the gorgeous color that they've got. Rich, beautiful. And what's beautiful, what's fantastic about this liner is that we just slide these potatoes off here. And I'm going to decorate just with a little bit of fresh rosemary, since I've got the sprigs already, just fresh, to give it a bit of color on the platter like that. And that's all you need. When we come back, we'll be making a ribbon salad with lots of vegetables and finish our poached peaches in a beautiful glass dish. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Food in a Flash. We're almost ready with our meal. We've made mint marinated lamb chops and we've done our smashed potatoes. So now we're going to make a ribboned vegetable salad. It's colorful, fresh and delicious with a herb dressing. So what I've got is my platter, because I'm going to ribbon straight onto that platter. And then my dressing is delicious. It's a fresh herb dressing. Parsley, a little bit of dill and some chives, but you could play around with those. If you didn't like dill, just use parsley. It just gives it color, it makes it very fresh. This is nice mixed lettuce, It's very dry, and you want dry lettuce when you make a salad because otherwise the dressing really gets diluted when you pour that over. What I find is that when you toss a salad, if it's been dressed, it actually wilts quickly. However, if it's just layered, it will stay crispy for quite a long time. So what I've got are some English cucumbers, some baby marrows, and some carrots. And what I want to do is actually ribbon them, which means I'm just going to slice them very, very thinly. This is a mandolin. Very, very carefully I'm using it because I could actually cut myself. So if you don't have one of these, and it needs to be done quite thinly so that we ribbon those vegetables, you could just use an ordinary vegetable peeler. So you want to put it flat on the counter and just pull your vegetable peeler along like that, and that will actually give you an even thinner slice, which really looks beautiful because the carrots tend to curl and they're not quite as thick as well. So once we've done the carrots, we're going to do some baby marrows, and those, as you can see, are really, really easy. I always say if you don't eat one vegetable, change it for another. And it's quite an economical salad, you can see, because I'm actually slicing so thin that I'm getting quite a lot of bulk with just a few ingredients. I also like to use seasonal vegetables. So if something's not in season, I try and stick to what's available. Otherwise, you just find that they're tasteless and they're very, very expensive. And this really works the best. We're going to add some Parmesan cheese to this, but it really is optional. We're going to ribbon it exactly the same with a vegetable peeler and just pop that on top of the salad. It adds a bit of saltiness and a bit of bite as well. Not too much either, and I'm not using a top quality Parmesan like a Parmigiano Reggiano, which is the top of the range. This is a Grana Padano. It works very well. It needs to be a nice hard cheese so that it shaves. Most other cheeses you can't shave, so this really does the trick. And now for my avocado special. This is what I teach everybody. It's the best trick in the world. So watch. We take a bowl, pop the avo in. The avo needs to be a firm avo. If it's starting to get too soft, it's not going to work, but just in the bowl. Then we're going to add some boiling water, and you can only leave the avo in for 1 minute, not longer. What does this do? It keeps it from going brown. So all we do is pour the water over, literally just turn the avo. Out it comes. So maybe even less than a minute. Pop that over there and onto my board. Now I'm going to cut it in half, and you'll see that this will never ever go brown. It peels so easily as well. I always cut an avo like this, and I'm just going to pop my spoon in and see what happens. It just plops out like that. So now this is the easiest way to handle an avo. We want to slice it and put it on top of our salad as well. And I'm just going to do long slices to match my vegetables. Very thin ones, because my vegetables are quite thin. Just spread them out a little bit. It's quite an informal salad. Nothing has to be plated absolutely perfectly, but you can see how easy it is just to do that, and it works really, really well. Now we're ready to make our dressing. Right, so we're going to use our blender. We are using a different oil now because we're making a salad. We need to use a lighter oil that's not quite so strong. So I've taken the dark extra virgin olive oil and replaced it with a golden olive oil. They call this classic in some of the stores. So if you're looking for an oil, look for the color more than the actual title. You'll see it by the color, and that's what's nice for salads. It's not too strong or overpowering. We want about a third to a half of a cup, and then I'm going to add some white wine vinegar. The reason I'm using white wine and not red wine is because of the color that it will add to the salad. I don't want to mask that color. So we're going to add the oil, then we're going to add some vinegar, and then I'm going to pop in my herbs. And it's really just a little bit. So about 2 tablespoons of dill, or a small handful. Remember, dill's a strong herb. Don't put too much because it'll be overpowering. The parsley, this time I'm using the stems as well because they've got lots and lots of flavor. And a little bit of chives. And I'll just break them because they're going to really chop up in the machine. Not too much salt, although salt brings out the flavor. Black pepper, I love freshly ground black pepper, and we'll whiz that up in no time at all. And just pulse it, it's just to get those herbs chopped. What you're going to see is that gorgeous color going dripping into the salad. I think that's good. Let's just give it a taste. Absolutely perfect. We're just going to drizzle it over. It'll seep into that salad, and that freshness is just fabulous. By the time we're ready to serve, the dressing will have gone down and it's going to be absolutely delicious. And now for the best part of the meal, the dessert. Let's put our peaches into the bowl. They are beautiful. They are firm. They've got gorgeous color still. I like to leave them whole with the pip in. And I love to pour over that juice. What's really nice to do is add a little bit of cinnamon into here, which will just give it a bit more flavor, or a bit of star anise. You can see how that juice is thickened beautifully as it's cooked down. Now what I've got is a few raspberries just to scatter over, and all it does is lift the color and just give that a new dimension. So it's something new, something different, and a little bit pretty for the color. These delicious recipes only took 45 minutes to make, and you too could make them in less than that time. What we made today was some marinated grilled lamb chops done in herbs and mint. We've smashed some potatoes, so we boiled them first and popped them in the oven to roast. And then I have a ribboned vegetable salad with a delicious dressing. Just to finish the meal, we poached some peaches, fresh peaches with some raspberries, and that's given them lots of beautiful color. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I loved sharing my passion of food with you. Please join me next week for our next episode, where we'll be making a creamy pea and asparagus soup, some za'atar chicken breast with a delicious lemon sauce, and a Greek salad with a lovely dressing. Don't miss it.
You've seen her do it on TV. Now learn to cook with Sharon at one of her fun interactive cooking workshops. From the very basics of cooking to full dinner party meals or cakes and bakes, Sharon Glass has a cooking class or workshop just for you. For more information or to book a spot, visit www.thehomechannel.co.za and follow the link to Food in a Flash. And for one lucky Home Channel viewer, Sharon is offering an interactive workshop for you and 7 of your friends. All you have to do to enter is log on to our website, fill in the online entry form, and you could stand a chance to win this great prize. Entries for the competition close on Sunday, the 15th of July.